And I would like to invite our next speaker, Cosmina. Yeah, you can just get some help with the mic. Oh, you can. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So just a few words, maybe to let everyone know how we know each other, because Cosmina is coming here from London, and you just actually came back from a personal trip to Bali, so you're all over the place. We do know each other for already 6 years, I think. It was quite a random encounter, almost, yeah, quite a random encounter. We met very randomly, but at the same time the connection was instant. And when we decided to lead the conference on this topic, which has a lot to do with the human connection with love and fear and empathy and emotional intelligence, I immediately thought of her. And even though we haven't been in touch so much over the last 6 years, this instant connection is still present. Thank you for coming. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the invitation. So let's just make sure this one works.
Sure. We can change it for you.
There's a little delay.
Okay, wonderful.
It's thinking.
Awesome. So wonderful to be here. And thank you so much for the invitation. It's actually our first time in Bulgaria. So it's really super exciting to be here. And just by show of hands, how many of you in the room are entrepreneurs, founders, working in a startup? Okay, so quite a few. And what about culture consultants, coaches? Awesome, okay. So we had an amazing start hearing about how powerful people can be in an organization, and also how important it is for leadership to set the right culture in place. And for the next 20 minutes, and I'm watching the time, we'll just go a little bit deeper into something that's very, very close to my heart, and essentially an experiment that we've been doing over the last year. And that is to, and we'll share that in the second part, is to look at what would it take to evolve business and really truly unleash some of the inner tech. We hear a lot about tech, we hear a lot about structures and organizations, and what about the stuff that we actually don't see? And so for today, we'll focus on the paradigm shift from fear to love, as what is required to create evolutionary businesses. And so a little bit about the current paradigm without dwelling on it. Is it working for us? The business world, is it working? What do we think? For us as humans. Not really, yes?
I personally didn't, because it wasn't working for me, so.
Amazing. Yeah, do we love coming to work? Most of us. Unless we're freelancers or doing our own thing, and even then it might be stressful, yeah? Hard to raise money, right? Hard to build the right team. So is it working? I would say probably not. If looking at the engagement rates, right? There's some really shocking statistics around how many people are disengaged at work. And also just the general energy behind business, right? The energy of competition, of separation, of greed, more for me, less for others. This is the sort of stuff that has collectively, it has been systematically programmed in. This is what you do in business. You compete with others. And on a personal level, we show up, we get stressed, we're fatigued, we burn out. So underneath, the current paradigm very much is informed by fear. Anyone has an issue with that? No. Good. And the world that has created, hopefully the slide will go, is truly not working for us. Not the slides either. Okay, thank you. So maybe I can do it from there. So the world that it has created is very much reflective of that, right? It's also not allowing us to thrive as humans, and it's really not so awesome for the planet. So all this focus on growth at any cost, for what, right? As this very clearly says, there are no jobs on a dead planet. So it really is getting to a point where we do need to focus and do something quite extraordinary, radical. And so we mentioned fear. It's really important to look at this, and this is actually a quote from a biologist that says the chemistry released by the fear in the brain actually shuts down the growth mechanism, and it does not allow our body to go into the maintenance that it needs to. Yes? Not only...
Yeah.
He was here. Okay, everyone familiar with Bruce Lipton? He's awesome, yeah, we love him. He wrote some amazing books like Biology of Belief. And there's really only one consequence when fear is allowed to run our operating system, and that is illness and disease. And that's why we see so many people suffering from many things, whether they're physical or emotional, psychological. And the reason why that happens is actually that it takes a lot longer for the chemistry released by fear in the body remains in the bloodstream for a lot longer than a positive emotion, for instance. So 24 to 26 hours, cortisol stays in the bloodstream. So it's something that it really is looking underneath, right? So can we even begin to define fear? What is it? Is it just an energy or is there something more? Should I try another one? Yes. Oh, yes, there we go. So this is a quote actually from our wisdom teacher who wrote a couple of amazing books, and it resonates because it's going beyond the usual definition. Oh, it's an emotion, right? It's something that you feel in the body. And it says fear is a disbelief in yourself. What does that mean? It means, do you even know who you are, right? It's the ultimate denial of your own power. So fear, surely we don't feel awesome when we're afraid. We're actually very much disempowered. And this is very important, it's a collective mind virus. It actually spreads like head lice. If anyone has children in the room, you send them to school, you don't want them to come home with head lice, right? Because the whole family has to get a haircut. And this mind virus breeds in the dark, swampy grounds of ignorance. Now that word might provoke some of us, but basically what ignorance means is lack of understanding. So even understanding that fear is a disbelief in yourself, you suddenly shatter the ignorance. And now you know, hey, what can I do about it? Start to look at, who am I? Why am I here? How can I believe in myself? So we are very much personally and collectively at a pivotal point. I'm watching the time, thank you. We do need to make the shift from fear to love. And with that comes also the shift from lack to abundance, the shift from imprisonment to freedom. And it is possible. But how, you might wonder. So in order to do that, we need to tap into one of the most awesome superpowers that is for now unexplored and untapped. It's beginning to, but it's very, very slowly coming into the business world. And that is the power of our heart. So heart intelligence. And what this is it's beyond just using the mind to make decisions, to strategize. It is actually bringing in the power of the heart. Oops, and now I just went. Oh, we good? Okay. I think it's a little bit unreliable. So, what is heart intelligence?
It's not like
It's not human, exactly. But the humans actually can make some mistakes as well. So, heart intelligence, it is actually love itself. What does that mean? What do we mean by love? It's not, in this context, we're not talking about love as sentimental love. We're not talking about the love that I have for my pet or my children, if I had any, or my nieces. I have two amazing nieces, or my beloved, or it's not that kind of love. It is a love that is not conditional. And this is anyone familiar with power versus force? Yes? Hands up? Yeah? Okay, those working in transformation, highly suggest you pick it up. Power versus force, the hidden determinants of human behavior. So it talks about a love that is unconditional, unchanging, and permanent. It does not fluctuate. Its source is not dependent on external factors. It is actually, loving is a state of being, it's forgiving, it's nurturing. And it actually has the power to uplift. So this is the kind of love that we're talking about. And there is a place for it in business, for sure. And imagine what world we can create when we actually, everything that we do personally, with our team, also with our families, and especially in business, if it is informed by this kind of love and not by fear. Just imagine, as a thought experiment, what kind of world could we create? And so, But for that to happen, actually, we do need to activate the superpower that we talked about. And that is very much connected with the heart. So what is so awesome about the human heart? Anyone familiar with heart math in the room? A little bit, yeah? Okay, so the next couple of bits are from HeartMath, an amazing organization that has been studying the human heart for about 15, 20 years, something like that. And they're doing they really geek out on all the great things about the heart. But I'll just share 2 or 3 points. And one is that the heart is not just a pump. Its role is not just to, by the way, it doesn't rest. Some of the other organs take a rest when we sleep. The heart, if it does, you're done, right? So it keeps going. But it's not just a pump. Its role is not just to move blood to the brain and the rest of the organs. It actually is a very, very powerful information processing center. It has a complete neural network, which, by the way, cells like neurons, like in the heart, and they store memory. And they've done amazing experiments of heart transplants, the recipient of which suddenly had memories of the previous owner of the heart. Young children, incredible. And so the flow of information they discovered through several experiments, and one was really, really, I'll share very briefly, super impactful, where they had participants wired up, and they were looking, the exercise was very simple. You just look at a screen, and you press a button to move a picture would be randomly generated by the computer. So not even the researchers knew the order in which images would arrive. And the images were of 2 kinds. One was uplifting, sort of life-affirming, that would give you joy. It might be a flower, a child smiling, or something beautiful to look at. And the other type was scary. Imagine the jaws of a shark, or something like that, or a car crash, something that would be disturbing. And so the participants, all they had to do was press a button. There would be a black screen for 6 seconds, and then an image would come. And they were connected at this point, wired up. And what the researchers discovered, and they were shocked to see this, the body responded with a stressful response or an ease response well before the image showed up on the screen. By how much? 6 seconds. So before the eyes could register what was the image and send the information to the brain, the body already knew. And they were like, how is this possible? How is this even possible? So there, we need to rethink the way the information flows in the body. It's not just that the eyes see it, inform the brain informs the rest of the body. But actually, they arrived at a conclusion, and you can find this research on their website, that it is actually the heart, intuitive heart, that picks up. And from the heart, the information flows to the back of the brain. This is the reptilian brain, the oldest brain in the evolution, to the limbic brain, the emotional brain, to the neocortex, and then the rest of the body. So the heart is awesome. Are you all convinced? Yes? Yeah. Amazing. Not only that, but it has something super, super cool, which is an electromagnetic field. This is not an aura. I know we meditated this morning, and so did we. We didn't make it. Got lost trying to find a place. But we did our meditation at 5 a.m., which is actually 3 a.m. London time, so pretty cool. So electromagnetic field. The heart is actually, if you know anyone in your family that had to have heart tests, like electrocardiogram, EKG, ECG, the reason why that works is because it's an electrical system, and it can be measured. So they also discovered that the heart has a field. And it extends, just like in this picture shows, around the body. It actually starts at the heart and goes around the body 3 to 4 feet. They think that's actually the extent of the device. The device cannot measure beyond, but they think it actually goes further. Does that make sense? So what's so cool about this field is that it's dynamic. It fluctuates depending on our thoughts and our emotions, and also our words. So that also says we can regulate, we can control that. And this field, the more we tend to it, just like you would in a garden, you know, you plant the kind of plants that you want and take out the weeds. Those would be the thoughts that are not useful. The more you do that, the more useful this field becomes. So you're not so affected by the outside world, and actually, rather you become useful. And so, because this field communicates. So you're useful because it communicates. It's not just I have my own and that's it, but actually I have my own and it interacts with the field of other people. And awesomely, it's not just human to human, it also is human to animal. HeartMath has done loads of research on this, measuring what they call coherence, which is when the brain and the heart and the emotions are all in sync. And so it also affects human to animal, and interestingly, they're doing lots of research on this, the planet. Now, if you look at the planet, also has the poles. It also has its own electromagnetic field, the north and the south poles. So there's a lot to explore. And what they call total coherence, this is also from HeartMath, is when, again, the brain, the heart, and the emotions are in sync. And when you're in the state, you're actually in a high-performance state. So now imagine doing that in a company. But it has to start with you as a person, and then you actually can affect the coherence of others. Again, lots of studies have been done on this. So anyone interested, just look up HeartMath. So you might wonder, what does that have to do with business? And when Velina asked me to do this talk, she was very excited about hearing something very practical and essentially an application of this kind of stuff. And so I'll share very briefly a love story. This is a team sitting in Amsterdam, and they're part of a larger organization that's based in Denmark, wholly owned subsidiary. And they work in food. So here they actually had a trip to London to cook together. So they had, for the first half a year, they've seen some encouraging signals as to why they should be in the market. So Denmark decided to invest. And then they had 2 years of no growth. And the parent company, CEO, which is in the room, the parent company said, hey, we need to look at this. What's going on? Why are they not growing? So last year we went in and we spent quite a lot of time with the team. And we realized, and I actually noticed, the country director, the guy that was leading the team, had himself some patterns, templates of belief that were, I'm not sure I can be successful. And that was manifesting in the business. So I pointed that out, and luckily the boss said, okay, let's go for it. We changed, so we let him go. And last October, we pressed the reset button. That was the first step in their transformation. So that was to say, now we change. We looked at absolutely everything that they were doing. Now it's day one, and we start from the beginning, as if there is no past. You have to let that go completely. And the first element was to articulate a greater purpose. So this is their purpose statement, which is to uplift the spirit of the workplace by creating meaningful lunchtime moment. It is a food company. They work with caterers on one side and then businesses on the other, and they deliver a warm lunch. So moments that are good for people, good for business, good for planet. And we wanted to make sure that everybody in the company was aligned and excited about this purpose. That was number one. And I'll quickly run through. The second step was to repattern, and this involved looking at what are their patterns. What are their patterns of behavior? What are their patterns of beliefs? And we literally made a list. We went and sat down with them, and we looked around the office as well. What stuff is around? What are they looking at? Right? And we saw, for instance, a list of lost customers. So basically, they're celebrating failure, right? So you just look at every time a new customer is lost, it goes on the list. And that's a focal point in the office. And we're like, this is not an awesome place to come to work, right? And so this really required looking literally at everything, leaving no stone unturned. What are they, how personally, how does the team feel about their own lives? Is there potential that they would like to explore and unlock that, but they don't have the tools to do that? And we made a list of what are the patterns, right? So constant state of worry. They're always worried. Of course, they were not growing and they were under pressure. And for every customer that was coming in, another one was going. Even afraid to call the customers, because what if they use this as an excuse to quit? That was like, wow. They were measuring failure, as I mentioned, having a board listing all the companies that had been lost. They were constantly anxious. Their meetings were long, not so productive, and they were leaving like, oh, more like, again, we're getting hit over the head with our targets, and we're not meeting these targets, right? Scrambling through the day. They were not really spending much time, quality time together as a team outside of work. And more in the mind, how can we figure this out? Beating their heads against the wall, how can we figure this out? We're doing everything. Less in the heart. And when you look at all of these, it's very clear to see it has the thumbprint of fear, yeah? It's quite obvious. And then we decided, okay, you cannot actually delete patterns. You can look at them and say, is it useful, is it not? Really use discernment. But the most effective way is to replace them. And so we looked at, okay, let's replace all of those patterns that are not serving us, that are not working. And we said, day one mindset every day. You show up, it's a new day. Forget yesterday. Call your customers to say thank you and really mean it. Don't worry, delete the fear. This is an opportunity, delete the fear. If you think you're going to quit, then we work with that. And this actually involved weekly calls with the team on Zoom or Skype. And actually begin to count the miracles. Don't count the failures, have a list of that. And the more you orient yourself towards seeing miracles, guess what? You do, and they did. Even things like, oh, you can't really sell in December, nobody buys in December. Then they had their largest customer. The moment I said, don't affirm that, then they had the largest customer come through right before Christmas, right? So count the miracles. Have an energy of gratitude. Make the meeting shorter, but have a focus and make sure you have more energy coming out than going into them. Start the day. This is really key. Start the day by meditating together. And because it's a small team, you saw the picture, they were up for it. And they were desperate. It was day one, right? So this is the amazing thing. When you have nothing to lose, they were just like, yes. So 20 minutes every single day, they show up and they start the day with meditation together. And it's also an active meditation. So really visualizing the customer and sending so much gratitude and so much love to the customer. And then having experiences. Now, experiences that make you conscious. We're not talking about going out and drinking together. We very much said, don't do that. That will, and I know that's a thing for most startups, right? Let's go and get drunk together. But especially in Europe, yeah. But we said, don't do that. And trust us for a bit. You know, if you still want to drink in your own life, they cannot say, you know, can't go into that. But together, do not create that kind of culture, because when you drink, you're unconscious. We want you to be conscious. So create experiences that give you a high where you spend time together. So we took them to London, we took them to Copenhagen, some of them to Bali. So it's the idea was that they have joint experiences that really strengthens the bond between them. And then forget the mind. It is useful for logical things, counting or whatever, navigating from here to there, but really activate the heart. And obviously these have all the hallmark of love. And then it required a reprogramming. So patterns are made up of programs. And this is where I said to Evelina, I have a typo on my slides. Because it's supposed to say step 3. And she goes, this is actually what makes us human. Don't worry. So reprogramming. Think of the programs that make up these patterns. So we talked about reset first as a step. Then look at the patterns. What is the template? Like think about the jigsaw puzzle, right? And then underneath that you have programs. And these are essentially like lines of code in your subconscious mind. Some of them are consciously above the radar of awareness, but most of them are in the subconscious mind. So there might be things like, money is hard to make because my parents had that relationship with money. Or there might be things like, I never get what I deserve. Or there may be things like, it's really hard to be loved or be accepted, right? So all of that without any judgment, we looked at, and this is one-to-one confidential conversations with the team. What's running the show here? Because guess what? 95% of what you do is not governed by the conscious mind. It's the subconscious. So by definition, below the radar of awareness, we have no idea. So can we have a look? And then you decide what you want to hold on to. So this was the step of looking at that. And a very important thing was, can we install a line of code that says, only do what you love? So if you don't love and you're madly in love with what you're doing here, then maybe it's not the right place for you. And if you're not willing to do it with an energy of love, because there are plenty of workplaces that are full of fear. If you want to hold on to the fear, you're welcome. And we did actually have to let a couple of people go. And that was that, right? And do it in a conscious way, do it with love. But also don't force it, and it was not giving up quickly. It was after a year of working with them and noticing, okay, you still come to the office and your emotions are all over the place, and the rest of the team has to stabilize you, right? It means you're not ready to let go of the old patterns. And this is supposed to say step 4, and good news is the last 4 is the last step. that is a rewire, right? So this is a transformation. And this step actually takes the longest because it involves rewiring the physical brain. So our brain, if anyone's looked at neuroscience, has about 100 billion neurons in the brain. And they each talk to about 10,000, meaning they fire together with 10,000 others. So it's a very busy place, right? The brain. And the synaptic connections are basically reinforced by what we believe, what we've learned, what we've heard, what we've been programmed to think. And so to actually create new synaptic connections, it doesn't take long, but it takes a while to stabilize them. Right? So a new positive, so to move from working with fear to work with love, it does take a little bit of time and consistent practice because of that. So you might wonder, what happened? What are the outcomes, right? So you fired a couple of people, what else, right? And just briefly the highlights. So we just mentioned 2.5 years no growth. And over the last year, this is October 18 to now, they've actually had this close to 50%, the boss tells me, 40, closer to 50% growth. 3 times increase on the margins. That's not a reflection of greed, by the way. It's just to say the first 2.5 years, the previous boss, because of his beliefs, what I do is not worthwhile, he had tiny, little or no margins. So basically they were paying to work, if that makes sense, right? So this is genuinely a rebalancing, right, to move the margins up by 3 times. And super happy and engaged stakeholders. And this is demonstrated by the fact that just recently, as in the last week, Denmark decided to make a strategic change. And I think I'm allowed to share this, yeah? And the change was to invest more in tech and less in geographic expansion. So we went to Amsterdam and said we have to close down. Well done, guys, but we have to close down the team. Because suddenly the parent company said, we can see it's working, but it's taking a long time and we need to take the resources somewhere else. And they were, of course, disappointed, some crying, and then they started calling the partners, first the kitchens, the caterers, and to say, so sorry, we need to close. And then the partner says, you can't do that. You can't do that. Can we talk about it? We want to invest. And this is an industry where caterers will not talk to each other. They're in massive competition, right? Very difficult industry. They will not talk to each other. The idea of a platform middleman was like, no, we want our own customers. We don't want to share with anyone. And suddenly, not one, but half of them said, we want to invest. Please don't close down. And then their sales coach said, external sales coach, please don't close, I want to invest. And then the team said, we will invest part of our salary to keep going. So I share this because it's incredibly powerful, right? What happens when you unlock this amazing power in the heart? And this is the guy that runs the team now. When I asked him last Friday, I said, why is this so meaningful to you? We're just went to Amsterdam to make a close down plan. And he said, you see, over the last year, my love for this sector, and actually for the impact that it has on the planet, because it's food. It's one of the biggest culprits, right? For our customers, for our partners, and especially for our team, has grown and deepened so much that I cannot imagine doing anything else. So imagine having more people that actually feel this kind of connection and this kind of love for what they do. So coming back to the beginning, what is the evolutionary purpose of business? You ready for it? So I'll submit is that the purpose is to awaken love in the hearts of all of your stakeholders. That involves the team, it's the customers, it's the partners, the investors, and really to grow this love to include the love for the planet. And I'll ask, will you be bold enough to do this? It's not an easy journey, as we've seen, up and down, having to let some people go. Can you choose love as a guiding principle? And it's, again, not the sentimental love. Do we have 2 minutes? Okay, 2 minutes. So,
everyone is okay with 2 minutes?
Everyone okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if the answer is yes, then I would say let's start today with the practice, and it is literally 2 minutes. And I will ask you to put down pens and notebooks and just sit closer to the edge of your seat. with your back straight. And then gently close your eyes and take a deep breath in. I know there's a lot that has been said, but just take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the nose. And connect. Just visualize the heart, as we've been talking about the heart a lot. Visualize the heart and a point of light at the heart center. And with the next in-breath, feel, literally feel, not a thinking process, so much love, understanding, and compassion for your human self. For everything that it is going through, that it has gone through, all the struggles and the challenges. Just feel the heart and feel total compassion. And that means total care, total love, and total understanding for yourself. And with the next breath in, bring in those that are close to you, your team, your family, your loved ones. And feel this total compassion for them as well, for everyone in this room. Total compassion, that means total love, total care, and understanding. And with the next breath, we extend this to include all 7.7 billion humanity. In your heart is wide enough, it's big enough. And within that are your customers, your partners. So feel absolutely total love and care and compassion for all 7.7 billion humanity. And just take one more breath in and register which one was easier, which one was harder. Was it the love for the self? Was it the love for those close to you? Or was it the love for humanity? For all of us, for the human family? Just register, notice it, and let it go. And take one more breath in and gently open your eyes. Thank you.